Hello wonderful interpreters, and thank you again for tuning in. As we informed you earlier this week, our unfair labor practice hearing concluded on September 14th. Actually, we were allowed to record everything from beginning to end because it was a public hearing. So we will be posting a video compilation of the whole hearing, which I'll be talking about and explaining later in this video. So please consider this video as an introduction to the hearing compilation, where I will detail our strategy prior to the hearing. I'll tell you my opinion about what transpired, how we did, so let's get started. So before we talk more about this hearing, I think it is important for us to revisit the history of how we got here to the point of having this hearing, the unfair labor practice against LNI. So you do remember this picture from 2018 where many of us went to Olympia to testify against this bill. You see me there, but many other interpreters showed up. Some of us were WUFC members back then, but we were put in a position where we had to oppose this plan, so we wanted to amend this bill. So many LNI interpreters and medical providers spoke eloquently about our concerns that day, but I want to show you how I testified. Here it is.
My name is Juan Medina Blois. I am an interpreter since 2008. I'm also an ex-injured worker that actually became an interpreter after being helped by LNI. I have to say, this is not a selfish or self-interest issue. We are independent contractors and we're businesses right here. There seems to be some misunderstanding as to what the payment will be. As right now, we make $51.60 an hour under the LNI system without middlemen or brokers behind it. There seems to be a misconception as to interpreters making $25 an hour under LNI agencies. It is true, but they also have the right to provide direct and contract direct with LNI. We're talking about 3,500 families if we only talk about the Spanish interpreters. That's without mentioning the 8,200 total medical interpreters in the state of Washington, many of which will be losing up to 25% of their income. However, most interpreters are self-employed, so I'm not overreaching when I say that the vast majority of the 8,200 interpreters are self-employed and small businesses. LNI is the non-appropriated funded, and its money comes from employers and employees, injured workers. We do not need any chaperone right here. We need the ability to contract directly with LNI and be able to provide quality service. Thank you.
After the hearing, a very small group of us had the opportunity to go back every day to meet with legislators and propose amendments. In the end, very few of us were able to introduce some changes, including myself. Dennis Eagle from WUFC agreed to most of these amendments that we proposed, and that's the only reason that a version of what we wanted made it into the actual amendments. Remember guys, this was their bill. So there you see me with fellow interpreters and Representative Noel Frame, who received the folder with the final proposed amendments that we had. These are the most important amendments, as you have seen from my videos, which included the dual system that we have been advocating for. Also, LNI is not prohibited from contracting with and paying interpreters directly, and nothing in the bill directed LNI to limit independent interpreters to only bill for on-demand appointments. So they had discretion over this implementation. We were asked also to testify in favor of the bill as a goodwill gesture, since they introduced the amendments giving LNI choices, and that's all we could do with the little leverage that we had. Now, with that said, here is the unedited version of the video testimony where I supported the bill with the agreed upon amendments. Dennis Eagle mentions this agreement first. Listen.
The other piece of this bill in the back creates a bargaining unit creation process should the interpreters so desire. That'll be up to them. Last thing I would say is amendments have been prepared that better clarify the intent of the bill, worked out with stakeholders. I think we've got a product that's ready to go, and appreciate your ongoing support. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Juan Medina Blois. I am an independent contractor, medical interpreter, and ex-injured worker. In the beginning of this process, I testified against this bill because representing majority of Illinois interpreters, we felt that there was some language that was not clear as to whether or not we would be able to still work with Illinois and have our pay rate as it is. But as Mr. Eagle has mentioned, we have worked on amendments that protect us all. And as a union member, I'm grateful that we were included in this process. Our concerns have been addressed, and we now fully support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
So later on, I accepted to help organize with ULP, provided that we would have our own union for Illinois interpreters, local union that is, without being part of Local 1671, the union that brought these changes. We even got them to write a letter, as you see there, promising that they would respect our choices and not interfere. But you know by now that they didn't fulfill that promise, unfortunately, so we had to opt out and start our own labor union. We started the election process on November last year as Washington interpreters, but then Illinois changed our working conditions while the election was pending. So we had to file for this unfair labor practice, and we just had the hearing. Are you with me so far? Now, let's talk about our strategy prior to the hearing, the evidence that we presented, and the overall hearing. So please, get comfy and let's break it down. So we've told you before that any changes to our working conditions while the election is pending is actually an unfair labor practice. So Illinois broke the law implementing this. So part of Illinois' defense is to say that they have been announcing these changes since 3 years ago and getting feedback from everyone, so everybody knew what was coming according to them. In their eyes, these plans were set in motion, so they are allowed to make changes even during the election, and that's called the dynamic status quo. Illinois thinks that this applies to them, in part because they do make changes to their payment policies frequently and so on. What we're saying is that Illinois didn't used to make these changes to our working conditions as interpreters frequently or every year. We were never limited to only bill directly for on-demand appointments, and we didn't have a scheduling system as the primary option in order to get appointments. On top of that, Illinois' changes were discretionary because they had 3 options for implementation, as you have seen in this video. Illinois announced their plans to implement something by September 2020, but everybody knows they didn't do it. They never announced specific dates until March 12th earlier this year, 30 days before the implementation. So no, they're not part of the dynamic status quo. Now, the other part of their defense is that they claim that the scheduling system is not within the scope of bargaining for any union. This is where things get interesting because even ULP uses this to campaign, right? Oh, Washington interpreters forgot to check the law. Well, this is another example of how ULP Local 1671 leaders flat out lie to you. Take a look at this. So it just happens to be that ULP introduced Senate Bill 6207 last year, which Senator Saldana sponsored. It had a companion bill, House Bill 2691, which was the one that ended up passing because it consolidated the other one too. ULP wanted to increase the scope of bargaining to include the distribution of appointments so that they could negotiate over the scheduling system. And as you can see here, this is the bill that was passed into law and effective on June 11th, 2020, last year. We even posted this development on our website last year, and we wanted to see where this was going. Yes, we knew about this. We just wanted to see what was going to happen, right? And this is the amendment that we introduced, making Illinois accountable, requiring them to report to the legislature. You can see it here. Now, this section here actually increased bargaining or negotiation rights for interpreters to now include the distribution of appointments under other economic matters, as you see on line 22. What, don't believe me? Well, let's watch Dennis Eagle testifying and explaining that this is exactly what other economic matters mean.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Dennis Eagle, Washington Federation of State Employees, very concisely speaking in support of House Bill 2691. For every union, there is what's called the scope of bargaining. It's a section of statute that lists what you're allowed to discuss at the bargaining table and may also list things that you're not allowed to discuss. What House Bill 2691 does is it puts the language for the scope of bargaining for language access providers on par with family daycare and adult family homes by adding tiered payments, health and welfare benefits, and other economic matters to the topics that they're allowed to discuss at the bargaining table. As you've heard, the distribution of appointments, for example, can be a total bread or butter issue for a language access provider. How many appointments you're able to get depends on how much money you make. So being able to discuss the manner and distribution of appointments is a huge economic matter that doesn't fall under their current scope. Over the years, interpreters have been able to negotiate better rates, but they're prohibited from discussing appointments, the ability to expect back-to-back appointments at the same location, safety issues, as Mr. Tran mentioned, tiered payments and health and welfare benefits. This bill just is a fairness bill, gives them the same opportunities as everyone else, and we would commend it.
The underlying bill is pretty simple. What we are looking at is how do we make sure that independent contractors, interpreters that provide professional services have ability to make sure economic matters means the things that around scheduling, around making sure that we have good coverage across our state and our rural communities.
So when you look back at how WUFC lied to you now that they passed a law to bargain over the scheduling system, but lying to your face, as you see right here, to get you to believe there's no way to fix things, this is here to stay, as they say, and to get a vote out of you with no integrity whatsoever, please ask yourselves these questions. How does that make you feel? Are these the kind of people that you could trust to negotiate on your behalf, hiding these things from you all the time? Are these the people that you want to entrust the future of the L&I appointment distribution and your overall working conditions? They only offer propaganda, lies, and manipulation. We have shown you this time after time after time. But see, thankfully, the vast majority of interpreters support our union, Washington Interpreters. In closing, I want to tell you about the hearing overall. I think we did good. We had 11 witnesses, including myself. And that was the first day on September 13th. We had an opening statement, and the witnesses were able to talk about their working conditions and how this implementation affected them. All of our witnesses did great, and I want to thank them from the bottom of my heart and on behalf of Washington Interpreters. They are brave, and I appreciate they took the time to do this. Thank you so much. We were also able to present and offered for the record our 40 exhibits composed of documents and videos, so it's all in the record. So the hearing on the first day lasted for 6 hours and a little bit over 15 minutes, I believe. On day 2, WUFC and L&I's lawyers presented their case, and the hearing lasted for about 2.5 hours. That was pretty quick. WUFC had 1 witness and L&I had 2 witnesses. You're gonna see it all later. So like I said in the beginning of this video, we're gonna be posting this little by little. It's gonna be probably a playlist, it's gonna be a compilation of videos, but it takes time to edit all of this. I'm actually editing, dead spaces, long pauses, because it's online. There is a lot of technical difficulties, trying to find an exhibit, stuff like that we don't have to have in a video, but we wanna have, a good experience for you to watch and not be bored. So please be patient with me. Also, we want to tell you that we had a request from L&I's lawyers. They don't want their faces to be there, and they do not want witnesses from L&I to be shown their faces in the videos. So what we're doing is, even though we have the right to show everything that we want because we were allowed to record by PERC, and this was a public hearing, we're going to honor that petition, that request. See, we're not unreasonable, and so we understand that they may not want to be endangered or be exposed that way, and that's okay. But you'll be able to listen to their voices, their testimony. When I post these videos, I'm not going to add any commentary to what witnesses say from the LNI side or WUFC side. Okay, I'm gonna want you to watch these videos and formulate your own opinions and just be informed that way. One more thing, because of the software that I was using, I wasn't allowed to record straight up from Zoom, from the examiner's Zoom platform from PERC, and that's part of the rules. I have to provide my own way of recording. The software gave me some glitches, some trouble, so at some times during the hearing, you'll see that you won't see the actual video footage, but you'll hear what they're saying. I'll have some images overlaid on the videos just at some points because of the glitches within the software that I use to capture the video and the audio. So just wanted to let you know that. Be patient with me. It's not going to be a lot of times. It's going to be here and there, but it's going to happen. So please expect so. So at the end of the hearing, we were told that we have until October 20th to submit our final legal briefs or arguments, and so that's going to happen after that. PERC is going to make a decision on this case. Legally, they have up to 90 days to respond, but there is a representation case that's being blocked because of these proceedings. It may be sooner than that. I don't know. But the thing is that, you know, a decision is going to be made later. So I'm not saying that we won. I'm saying that we achieved everything that we set out to do, which is have our witnesses, you know, share their testimony and get all of the evidence into the record. And so we were able to achieve that. And so now it's in PERC's hands, and they'll make a determination based on the evidence that we were able to present, which I am very happy and confident about. Please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel in order to keep on getting more relevant information for our interpreting community. So see you in the next video. Please do not lose hope, and as always, God bless.